Hey guys, it's Joshua. So nice to see ya. Today we're going to be talking about some of my favorite Monsteras and what I think is going to be really popular going into 2025. With so many Monsteras that are coming into the market now and all of the different kinds of mutations that are being discovered, it can be really overwhelming to try and figure out which ones are worth getting, which ones are worth buying, and which ones are worth skipping out on entirely. Since a lot of these Monsteras are being discovered for the first time as well, it can be really difficult to know which ones are worth getting in terms of stability. Since I've had the opportunity to grow a lot of the different types of mutations right here, I'm hoping that some of the knowledge and some of the perspective that I've had growing all of these plants can help you to make a better decision when figuring out which ones to buy, which ones to invest in, and which ones are worth having in your collection. Alright, so to start off our list of the top 5 Monsteras that are worth buying in 2025, I wanted to showcase some special plants that I have in my collection, and I'll be putting some pictures from my Instagram up here on this side for you guys to see. But one thing that I think is really going to be super popular going into 2025 are Contorted Monsteras. They're really ugly, grotesque, some people really don't like them, but if you're anything like me, they are my absolute favorite. I love how they look. I think they're so unique and so wonderful, and I think it's just really exciting that you don't really know what the next leaf is going to look like. So I think the surprise factor of that is really exciting too. One of my favorite Monsteras ever is the Monstera Ocean Mint. It is a really nice contorted Monstera with this kind of dark cream variegation on top of a nice deep dark contorted leaf. It's everything you could want in a contorted Monstera. The shape is crazy and it kind of folds and gets even more contorted in areas that are pure white throughout the leaf. So any sections that have solid white, those tend to be more shrunken and give the leaf even more contortion. So it's really exciting. I think it's a really good plant for 2025 and one that a lot of buyers are going to be really interested in simply because it's going to be more available. I think Ocean Mint has become a much more accessible plant for a lot of buyers. It isn't super expensive. You can probably find a one leaf node cutting for probably around $500 or US dollars now. Something around that. Prices are all over the place, so when I say a price, it's just kind of what comes to mind. But yeah, they're easy growing. For the most part, I haven't had any issues with the other Ocean Mints that I've had in my collection. But yeah, I think that it's a really cool Monstera to have. I think every collector should have one. And it's one of the original contorted Monsteras that have become really popular and are now easier to get here. Another Monstera that I really like is the Jade Goblin. This is one that I've just started to release here in the United States. It's a fun sport that I found overseas that has a lot of this minty foment color all over the leaf surface, contorted leaves, drooped fenestration, short lobes, so it has kind of a flatter top. It's just a really cool one, and I think it's one that a lot of people are going to really like in 2025 simply because it looks very different from the other contorted Monsteras that are out there. I have some pics here for you guys to take a look at of some of my mamas that I've propagated and grown out. Yeah, it's a lot of work to get all these propagations out, but the color has been pretty stable on these, so really excited to see what they do in the future. And finally, the last contorted Monstera that we're going to be showing today is the Monstera Oceana. I do not have one in my collection yet, but from what I've heard from other collector friends who have this plant, apparently it's been pretty easygoing, and it's been pretty stable too. The color is really nice. You get this kind of fine, spidery, veiny color all throughout. The way it sits on the leaf is really cool. So if you haven't seen one, here's a few pictures so that you guys can see. But yeah, that's one that I want to add in my collection shortly too. It's just really cool and I just love how it looks. It looks like electricity. The second group of Monsteras that I think are still going to be really popular in 2025 is the Monstera Mint NOID, aka Jungle Mint. It is a very beautiful plant with deep fenestrations because of its intermediate form, has really awesome variegation that can go from super chunky, blizzardy mint to almost pure white elbow. The different variegation patterns that you can get on one single plant are almost limitless, and I think it's really incredible just how much color is able to be produced by this plant. Prices for these I think are still going to be pretty stable. I've seen cuttings for around I don't know, 150, 250 or so. I'd say relatively affordable in the Monstera world, and you can definitely grow a really nice plant from them. They're really easy growing, they're not super fussy. I found they root pretty easily. And yeah, I think it's just an overall knockout plant. I'm really glad that it's one that is becoming more easily available here in the United States. And I hope it just continues to spread because it was actually one of my favorite mints, when I started collecting Monsteras. I mentioned this earlier, but one thing that's really unique about the mint NOID is that it can produce different kinds of variegation. And one thing that I've been toying around with in my own personal growing has been fertilizer concentrations for mint NOID. So what I found is that if you give a mint NOID or a jungle mint more fertilizer, more often than not, they tend to go more on the elbow, less minty side. And then with less fertilizer, I'll get much more deeper, mintier kind of color. So if, maybe you have that similar experience, maybe you've noticed that your plant has produced different kinds of colors, maybe you can comment below and we can kind of discuss that. But that's what I've observed. I know a lot of times when you chop a mint NOID, the first few leaves will come out more elbow and then get more minty as well. So it's really interesting. It's kind of a gamble what you get, but I think that adds to the excitement of the plant too. One thing that I will add, this is gonna be like a mini micro prediction. I have a feeling that the TC Mint is gonna become like the next icon. It's gonna become very readily available. It'll be very easy to get. Just because of TC, and it's just become very accessible, and I think there's a lot of oversaturation right now in the market for TC mints. So yeah, we'll hopefully be seeing those for a much more affordable price, sub $100 sometime this year, assuming everything goes the way it's kind of been looking to go. And then as a follow-up to that, don't tell anyone I said this, but the TC mint sucks. Like, the TC Mint actually sucks. Like, it's gonna go green on you. You have to chop it to bring back the color. I can do another video on that another day. But if you respect yourself, get rid of your TC Mint, buy a Mint NOID. You'll be much happier. For those of you who have ever had a TC Mint, you will know exactly what I'm talking about. So I'm holding the plant that I think is going to go very, very popular in 2025. This is my third prediction. I think that the Electrolyte is going to become really popular in 2025. This plant is really beautiful. It has a similar splash constellation kind of variegation to Thai constellation. And the pattern can get really exciting. You get nice block variegation. You can have more fine kind of speckled legacy coloring. I hope that shows up well on this camera. I just got a new camera, so yeah. But anyways, this is a really cool plant. I think that it's going to be popular. I don't really have any specific reason why other than it's a nice plant and the price of it in Thailand has kind of started to drop. So in my head, in my collector brain, that is kind of the sign that, like, okay, it's ready for more mass market sort of availability. Maybe this is already being TC'd, maybe there's already a lot of them, so that's why prices are starting to drop. But in any case, works out well for us over here in the States because, more opportunity to collect these. So I'm hoping that the Electrolyte does well. I think a lot of people are gonna really like it, and once that demand kind of is fulfilled, maybe this could become the price of a Tacon someday. Probably not next year, but who knows? The market is always changing. I'm being very, very optimistic with this next prediction, but I think that these kinds of Monsteras are going to also be very popular in 2025. This one is a Variegated Compacta. It's a dwarf form that has variegation, in this case Aurea. This one's been doing really well for me and my props have been growing well. This specific plant isn't necessarily what I'm putting as my prediction. My prediction is more, I think that there's going to be different forms of Monstera or Variegated Monstera that are going to be released. So you'll start seeing variegated dwarf forms, variegated Brazil forms, variegated, who knows, Mark's Flame, all the other different green forms of Monstera that are out there. We'll start seeing more and more of those hit the market. Like, I have a few Acocoiduensis that are coming in that are elbow. Those are beautiful. I think that once more of those become available, they'll become really popular. So I'm very hopeful that things like this we'll start to see more in 2025, especially with all the collecting that is being done with Monstera now. You know, who knows what people will discover and find. So yeah, let me show this one again to you guys. I have to say I'm always so excited to show this plant. I know some of you who, you know, keep up with me regularly are probably tired of seeing this, but I have high hopes. 2025 is going to be the year of the Variegated Compacta, or Variegated whatever. So yeah, just different forms that are going to come out. I think those are going to be really popular, and yeah, I hope more of them come out. Another thing to add to that previous clip, I think that the Compactas in particular are a really good kind of investment and are worth buying for two reasons. One, I think that it could potentially be the best houseplant Monstera ever, simply because of its form and its variegated, right? Best of both worlds. Won't eat up all your space, but will also have the variegation. I know plenty of people who love variegated Monstera, but it just eats up so much room. So, you know, I can only put so many of them, but I can probably fit more Compactas than I can the other kinds. So yeah, I think that it's very viable commercially in terms of being a good houseplant that people will really like. And two, there's just not that many of them out there, right? When I'm collecting, that's one of the biggest things I think about, you know, how many of these are going to pop up on the market someday? You know, is it worth splurging on this plant? And at the moment, I would say yes. You know, maybe months from now, the answer will be totally different, but we don't know yet. But for now, yeah, buy a Compacta. I have one last prediction. It's my fifth one. I think that this Monstera is going to become really popular. I've been asked for more of them recently than before, which leads me to believe that it's just becoming a more popular plant. But it's not variegated. Shocker. But it's a Monstera Sierrana. I think that the Sierrana, especially the Hawaiian form, maybe the Mexican form, I prefer the Hawaiian form more. I think that the Sierrana is going to become really popular because it's just a really nice plant. Like, it's easy growing, the fenestrations are beautiful and thin. It's definitely more on the skeletal side, and it's more compact than a normal deliciosa. Like, the leaves stay kind of small. I'm going to include a few clips now of my plant, but it's just a really easygoing plant. It does very well on a pole, roots really well. I've propagated so many of them. Tom, if you're watching this over in Big Island, Hawaii, I still have so many pieces of your Sierrana. I brought back a few from my Hawaii trip over the summer, but it's just a really great plant, very easygoing, stable, won't be too finicky. It's like a great houseplant too, just like deliciosa. And yeah, there's just something very classic about it. You know, not everything is all about variegated, you know, leaves. So yeah, my one non-variegated plant kind of prediction for 2025 that I would say is worth buying is the Monstera Sierrana. You can find props for around 1 to 200 or so, and they grow really fast. So get a small baby one for 50 to 100, right? Grow it out, take a few chops. I've noticed that they grow faster with more light and more warmth. So if you can keep the plant more on the warmer side and not let it get too cold, should do just fine for you. But yeah, it's a great Monstera. Highly recommend. As you can see, there are so many different kinds of Monstera to choose from. It can get really overwhelming when you don't know what's going on or what to look for. So hopefully this kind of review can show you potentially new options that maybe you were a little nervous to look for or you didn't know much about. Hopefully you now know more information and can go out and buy some cool plants. So yeah, those are my predictions for 2025 of what's going to be popular and what's worth buying. If you have any questions, you can always feel free to PM or message down in the comments below and we can chat about it. So yeah, thanks for tuning in to today's video. I hope you guys have a good morning, have a good night wherever you are, and I will see you later. Thanks.